Hey guys, what's happening? We're live at the UIA Workshop Series, 10-week series. This is the second installment of our very exciting workshops. I have with me not only Mr. Warren Tuttle, but our special guest, Mr. Matt Nuccio. Hey Warren, what's going on, man?
Hi Carmine, how are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Everybody's good. Everybody's good. Hey, we'll just we're looking forward
Hey
to
guys.
yes,
Always a pleasure.
With Matt Nuccio. It's an hour, which would normally cost you a couple $1,000s. You're getting it for free today.
Yeah, his calendar's usually booked up, man.
He's more expensive than my lawyer.
You know, you do what you can.
But we're going to start off, Carmine, just talking about a little bit about the series and the show today. How's everything in Tampa before we get going?
Everything's going good down here, man. Starting to get nice out. You know, it's kind of crazy because you know, I see all these golfers out, man. They're all driving around with singles in their golf carts and still standing 6 feet away, but they're playing, man. There's people out.
Well, I went out for the first time today in like 3 weeks. I went to Costco, I went to CVS and did all those things. We have to wear a mask here in Connecticut. So I went to the gas station, I got my car washed. It was great. Like, I feel like all alive now.
and yeah, just to mention these workshops, man, I know that we're going to start building them up. This is the second. We're really pushing it out. All the board members are helping. And I know that we're getting more and more listeners, more and more questions streaming in.
Well, appreciate, Carmen, all your efforts to get this thing off the ground, set up our YouTube channel and everything. And yeah, so we're the United Inventors Association. We're the, I guess, largest 501c3 nonprofit inventor group in the country. We are totally nonprofit, so everything that we bring to you guys will be hopefully stuff that you can use and not have to pay for. No fronts, no hidden agendas here. We will be, you can get in touch with the, you can go on the UIA website, uiausa.org, to learn more and get in touch with us if you have any questions. We'll get everybody's email during the show today, including Matt's, but if anybody wants to reach out to me, it's www.tuttle@yahoo.com, and please feel free to reach out anytime and we'll get back to you within a day or two. Carmine, what's your email? Tell everybody your email too.
My email is just carmine@inventorslaunchpad.com. Any questions, find me there, social media. And I do want to ask any of our listeners out there to please subscribe to not only this channel, this YouTube channel, but also to the UIA. It's free, so definitely make sure you are a member.
Cool. Well, we've got, this is week 2 of a 10-week series. I know we put it together fairly quickly, but we every week we're going to feature another board member. And this week it's about toys. Just so you know, next week it's going to be about angel funding and raising capital. We have 2 amazing hosts, Dara Trujillo and Kedma O, who are both board members and experts on finding money. And then in 2 weeks from today, which would have been the National Hardware Show, which, you know, the UIA runs the biggest inventor booth pavilion in the country there. That's been moved back to September 1, 2, and 3, but we will be doing a pitch panel. So if anybody out there has a hardware product that you want to pitch, reach out to us. We have a little application you can fill out. We can vet it. We want to get 6 to 8 people to pitch, make sure they have all their intellectual property stuff in order and everything. And we're going to have a great panel of Michael Miller from NCH, Scotty Hine from QVC, and Tom Gray from Make 48 to review your products and education and give you feedback on how to help. So we do these pitch panels at the show, and we will just be recreating it virtually. So,
awesome.
So those are the next 2 weeks. So, but it's my pleasure today, without further ado, to get on to Matt Nuccio, great friend and terrific board member of the UIA. And Matt is in his bunker in Long Island and an expert in the toy industry. Hey, Matt. Say hello.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
Matt is the fifth Beatle, as you can see.
Everything all right? Get a little buffering. So I hope it's not coming across on you guys in too.
A little bit of a delay there, but I think
you guys buffering, or is it just me?
Carmine, do you know what that is? Buffering?
It's just on your end, Matt, but I'm sure it's okay. It'll clear up.
All right.
Okay. So we'll try to have it clear up. But, all right, boys, what do you want to begin?
Well, we thought, Matt, maybe you could just take a few minutes, 5 minutes, and just describe what you do. Introduce yourself. A lot of people know you already, but and then your place in the toy industry, and then being on the UIA board. So we'll hand it over to you for a few minutes.
Sure. Who am I? What do I do? And why am I here? Right, the classic questions. Sure. I am, as you've stated, my name is Matt Nuccio. I am the president of Design Edge, which is a product development company that specializes in the toy industry. I'm a toy industry veteran. I grew up in the industry, and I've been running Design Edge since 1997. My parents actually started the company in '87, and my father started the toy industry in 1969. We are a complete development company, so it's everything from design and engineering to packaging and prototyping and whatever samples. We also have offices in China where we manufacture and source for dozens of toy companies. So basically, we are the back end to lots of small and medium-sized toy companies, and the larger guys give us projects to develop from the onset to making them turnkey, or in some cases we just do a bit or a piece of something, but whatever needs to get done. It's I guess we are your hired guns. We'll do what you need us to do. I sit on several boards besides the United Inventors Association, but we'll get to that. I sit on the Toy Association's Creative Factor Board, which is an educational board where they host an event at Toy Fair every single year for inventors to come and pitch to major toy companies. I also sit on the fantastic Chicago Toy and Game Group board, advisory board rather, where we, besides the great event every year held in Chicago, the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, where they hand out the TAGIE Awards, which is the Toy and Game of the Year award, they also educate and advocate and work with inventors and hold a lot of social events, and they do quite a lot of great things. I'm getting a note that says my internet is unstable, so I hope you guys can hear me. Can I get a thumbs up?
It's kind of like you. Yeah, we can hear you.
It's not horrible.
And of course, there's United Inventors. Yeah, well, I am unstable. But, I don't know if it's something my internet is. Nothing like being judged by your computer.
Is there anything else you can take to become?
Computer doesn't all that. I don't want people to know. Yes, but I work a lot with Invent, a lot of products of our own. We've licensed dozens of products. We also, in recent years, started representing outside inventors on a very selective basis, but we try to help those who can't get access to the big guys and who have good ideas, and we help mentor them when they team up with us and sort of steer them into by working with them with wish lists or advising them on how things should be designed or engineered. If you can pitch an item that they can see that they can grab a great margin on, you're probably going to have success licensing it. So all that in one breath. What do you want to?
So Matt, I don't know. I think we're a little off here, but can you give everybody your email address and your website, how to get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, my email address is Matt, M-A-T-T, @designedge.net, and our website is designedge.net.
All right. Well, now everybody has that. Now, Matt, over your shoulder are a number of toys. Are those examples of things you've done? Are those some of your Hall of Fame products there?
That's a combination of a few things actually on this wall. There's some stuff that we've designed, whether it be there's action figures that we've created back here, and also packaging that we've done. And there's a few things that I'm just a fan of. And then right here is my 5th grade project, to which I drew the Beatles, and I got the best artist in the grade award on that one.
You did that?
Yes,
cover?
yes.
Did you do that cover? I didn't know.
Yeah.
The cover.
Yeah. The Beatles actually hired me. I actually did the inside script. Yeah.
Hey, don't laugh, because one day I was at an inventor event in New York City, and with Matt once, and they had all this coffee out, these big box of Joes from Dunkin' Donuts, and someone didn't know how to use them and open them up. So Matt said, I know how to open them up. I was the one that invented them. Tell us
Wow.
that story.
That's cool.
I engineered it. I worked on those types of all those sort of codes. We do a lot of outside of toys. We do quite a lot of like food packaging. We engineer a lot of unique food packaging for a lot of top brands, and also it's a lot of packaging, a lot of engineering. So anything you can from coffee to underwear to toys. We've seen it all. We've done it all.
Well, it's pretty cool because thinking on the spot, I got a yellow Post-it note and put Matt designed these and put it on one of the things, and that became our display. So Matt, maybe we have a number of people who may be new to the toy arena who are listening today. We have inventors, product developers, designers. How do they, if they have a great toy idea, I mean, they can come to you, and you all have Matt's email, matt@designedge.net. But if they wanted to get started designing, developing, approaching the toy industry, I know it's a little different than other industries like hardware and housewares. Can you supply a few tips on how they might get started?
Well, all right. Well, where do we want to count as getting started, right? Is it in the inception of the idea, or is it what to do once they've got a solid idea and they've proved it out? Well, I guess we'll go to the ground level, right? So you got an idea, or you wake up, or an apple hits you in the head, or whatever, however this idea comes about. The first thing you should do is do your research, because toys are this amount of toys come a year. You walk Toy Fair, you're like, where does all this stuff get sold? There's just so many toys that are introduced every single year, and it's a fashion-based business. So it's trend-based, and it moves, and what's popular this month is not popular next month, is gone next year. So you need to just make sure that what you've created hasn't already existed. So whether, go online, look for it, try different types of search words, different ways to say what you're doing, and if you can discover that you've got something unique, then, it doesn't have to be necessarily a functioning prototype, but it needs to be something that this visually says what this thing can do. Also, I would suggest, keeping it as simple as possible. I mentioned before, it's a margin-based industry, so don't try to cover every single base. Too often I'll see an inventor, but now they want to add lights, they're going to add sound, and they're going to make it vibrate, and it doesn't need to do any of those things. All you're doing is increasing the cost. But just function on where the fun is. It has to be fun, and really just get it to this point where it's something that people want to pick up. Far too often, another thing I see is people create items that are just for looking at. They think because, wouldn't it look cool if it does this? It's not fun to look at something. There's nothing to be more frustrating for a child than to have something that they just have to stare at. Again, it's got to be tangible. So if you're inventing something that you want children to play with, it needs to be something that they'll actually play with and not just look at. If you want to make it just looks cool, then you should focus on the gift market, because then it can go on a shelf and it can be kind of cool and pretty and have, be a talking piece, not a toy. All right, so you've got all that covered. Now you've got several options. You can find a good toy broker who's got access to a bunch of toy companies. You could try contacting some of these companies via their websites, or you can go to some of the events like the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, and you could sit there and you could go and you could pitch and meet some of the top execs that handle these sorts of things. If you're lucky enough to get them to bite, just be respectful. Because remember, you're one in a long queue of other inventors, and far too often I see, especially if they have gold, get a little too headstrong, and now they're all of a sudden they're super negotiated to think that everybody wants what they have. Well, guess what? Again, you're in the queue, and it's a fashion-based business. If you're not going to play, they're just going to and go to the next item. So you just have to be able to figure out how to make that work for you in order for it to work for them. So just be respectful. Again, if you want to learn how to negotiate terms and deals, there's plenty of books out there that teach you about contract negotiation. And there's ones that are specific to the toy industry.
Hey, hey, Matt, real quick question for you.
Find out what the standard.
Oh, go ahead. You were frozen there for a second. I wasn't sure if you were done. Hey, Warren.
Yep. I think
as soon as we get Matt back.
Yeah, a little sporadic. So we apologize for that. I think Matt is in his basement.
Yeah, I think so. As soon as we get him back, real quick, how far have you seen some of these toy developers go? Like, if I'm developing a toy or I have an idea for a toy, how far should I go before I really present it to someone?
Well, you know, what I've learned, and I'm not an expert in the toy industry, which is why thank God we have Matt on, although I think we may have lost him, so we apologize. We can talk about licensing in general here until he comes back on. The toy industry is a little bit unique from other industries. Matt must have mentioned several times just now that it's a fashion industry. I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Fashion isn't just come on wearing clothes and designer suits from Milan. It's you know, it's the fact of the matter is that there's different SKUs for different looks, colors, and things like that. And it has to be appealing. He did say it's got to be more than just being able to look at it, but it tells me that also fashions change, you know? So, and I think that's what he's driving at the end there. You know, you can think you're, you know, the top of the hit parade, you know, and next year you're out in the street, you know, because the fashions change in this business. So, and I found that in the toy industry tends to be one that you need a little more help reaching companies, where you have someone that's either pre-approved on a list of folks that can help you negotiate deals or have access to the big companies. So those are a couple of things that I've noticed in the toy industry, but I don't know if that answers the question there.
No, it does. It's amazing to me how, like, you know, obviously we're all kids. We all play with toys. I still play with toys. Even at my age, when my kids got toys, I used to love playing with them. It's just amazing to me how many toys are not only thought about each year, but, you know, actually brought to market and tested, but that don't even make it. I mean, is this kind of just like other products, but it seems like a huge number, right?
Well, it is. And interestingly enough, last year or 2 years ago, I was up at Hasbro with Matt. Matt knows everybody.
Yeah.
We lose him entirely. Anyway, we'll entertain you. Sorry about this, but Matt knows everybody in the toy business, and he's been doing it for a long, long time. And so we were up with at Hasbro up in Rhode Island, and they had a hit product that it had been a hit product for them back in the 60s.
Wow.
And there's these thousands of products that they've archived. And somebody was going through and saying, maybe we should just reintroduce this product. And they brought it back out. And it was like a cuckoo clock with a pie or something. And I forget the exact item. And they reintroduced it and they sold millions of them, you know, 50 years later, you know. So the toy business is, if people have not been to the toy fair, it's a great event. It's every February in New York City. It's different than almost any other industry show. The UIA has been involved in it. Matt is on the toy board, and so we got involved with doing some inventor education programs there and so forth. So I got a chance to go down there many times, you know, for that. And it's really a very eclectic, not a big show. It's pretty easy to walk. Small industry actually, but very eclectic. A lot of change, a lot of dynamic stuff going on there. So.
Yeah. And I'm amazed always at the amount of conferences and different types of meetings and things that wrapped around the toy industry itself. And man, toys are big business. I would never have thought it was that big, but it's a big business.
Well, it's also an international business. And the other thing I noticed, and Matt mentioned the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, which the UIA has been a sponsor of for many years. And that's an event that takes place right before the holidays in late November in Chicago. And that's at the Navy Pier there. And it always amazes me going to that event and going to Toy Fair, how many international people. Like, you know what? One thing that's really weird is the number of people I met from Holland. I don't know why, but I don't know, with the wooden shoes, whatever. They like to invent toys over there. There's a lot of Dutch in the business. I grew up in Switzerland, huge toy business, toy stores, massive toy stores, 4 or 5 story toy stores, with all types of fun things. So there's a huge show in Nuremberg in Germany every year that Matt goes to. I know I'm talking for Matt right now, but we've interviewed him enough times.
Yeah.
So there's so the toy fair in New York is just one component of the worldwide toy business. And from what I understand too, the toy industry is doing very well during the virus because of course everybody's kids are home. So you got to keep them in. But it is a little bit different. It's a little bit more regimented than some other business. It's a little bit more difficult to approach companies. And like Matt said, and let me reiterate this because I'm writing my book, Inventor Confidential now, and I've written a big chapter about it. You do, if you do get someone's attention, it's really important to be polite. It's almost like a job interview, and keep your relationship, because none of these big companies need you. None of them. And in any industry, they don't need you. Okay. It'd be nice if you have a nice relationship and can build a platform out. But you want to be professional, be polite. And if you are, like he said, fortunate enough, here we go, come back. If you're fortunate enough to get their attention, you want to manage that properly. Hey, Matt, are you?
Yeah, hopefully that's.
Oh, that's better.
Is that better? Yeah, I don't know what happened there. All of a sudden, it just sort of crashed.
Well,
That's all right. We were talking for you. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. Like, isn't he the miserable soul?
No, all good, man, all good.
So we just covered a little bit about the international aspects, and we were just talking about the toy fair and Chicago Toy and Game Fair. So we're good to come back to where we left off there.
Sure. So let me know where we left off, because I just wanted to.
One of the things, Matt, one of the things I pick up with, you were kind enough to bring me along up to Hasbro a year or two ago, and when we were there was a product a hit product that they had sold back in the 60s, and that they had decided to pull it back out of the closet after 40 years. I mean, does that type of thing happen a lot in the toy business?
Yeah, things get. I mean, there's items like, I've worked on creepy crawlers twice in my career, and I was already like the 3rd generation of that. I mean, that item came out before I was born. Yeah, it's quite often that people go into yesteryear and find something and bring it back. Whether it be a reskin of laser tag, or or like I said, creepy crawlers, or there are no new inventions. I always feel there's just new recipes. The toy industry is really big on recipes, and this year we're just going to use more paprika.
Do you think that might be a fun angle for maybe people watching the show, that if they had a special interest in chasing down old things when they were kids, and if they haven't done research,
I mean, if you can get a hold of some old IP, like, that, I don't know how much this is an inventing thing versus like a trolling thing, really. But if you have access, you can find some old IP that's been laying dormant, and you feel that it's time to bring it back, and you can get the rights to it, by all means. Or if it's just so gone that you can actually just rebirth it and imagine it for the 21st century, go for it.
Wow.
Who knows? What's old is new again. Yeah. And especially the reason those sorts of items always do well is because the kid gets excited about it, because every new group of kids, all toys are new to them, right? This is a brand new world to them. These are play patterns. Yes, we played exactly like they did when they were kids, but it's new to them, right? But
we were different. We were good kids.
No, I wasn't. We were slashing tires and throwing rocks at cars. But where you win with bringing back yesteryear's toys is that grandma remembers it, grandpa remembers it, mom remembers it, dad remembers it, your aunts remember it, and they go to the store and it's a trip down memory lane, and like, oh man, I want to get this for my niece or for my nephew or my grandson because I had it and I loved it. And it's a conversation piece, and it's not just a toy, it's a moment to be shared with somebody.
And you know when the drag is? When you're the one person that can't remember it. That's what's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just from all that stuff he did in college.
Yeah, Kraft syndrome. But anyway, but hey, Matt, so it always impressed me. You know everybody in the toy business. I mean, at every company, you know, name it, Mattel, Hasbro, all of them. How the hell did you manage that? Is it just years in the business, or have you had a lot of hits or credibility, or tell us how that all came about?
Well, I mean, let's face it. Let's call a spade a spade. I grew up on second base, right? So, you know, I knew all the older guys coming up because they were my father's generation. And then as the younger companies started to come up, I was like, you know, of age, and you know, they would come into town for New York Toy Fair, and I lived in New York, or you know, and we would go out. So I was, you know, late nights and dinners and drinks, and you know, and the go-to guy in New York for a long time. And
you were 16, you know, right? Late night.
Well, I also, you know, I had some hits under my belt at a very young age, which was always very helpful, you know. And there's things that, you know, I find out years later were huge hits that we worked on. We didn't necessarily invent them, but, you know, we were a development company. So people would come to us and have us either, you know, build a prototype or do the packaging or whatever it be. And, you know, cult things like the Power Glove, or, you know, or just being you know, in my late teens and just, you know, sitting there old school style doing marker renderings of what this shaking giggling mechanism should be for Sesame Street, and which eventually turns into Tickle Me Elmo. You know,
Wow.
You know, these are, you know, these are just like crazy things, or you know, all these weird action figure lines that we came up with. And when the boom for collectible action figures started, it was homegrown almost. You know, like we did Living Dead dolls with Mezco, which has a huge cult following. But I literally sat in Mez's living room, chain smoking cigarettes, trying to figure out like what the logo should look like, you know. And you know, years later, that's a sizable action figure company with a huge following.
Are you still pissed off you didn't get paid enough?
Yeah, I never get paid enough, you know.
No, none of us do.
By the way, I had that for full disclosure. My first big product was Misto with Tom Rich. I don't know if he's watching today. I'll probably embarrass him, but he and I were on the phone. 40 years later, we're still fighting over. You know.
No, I feel like I'm like the Iggy Pop of the toy industry. Like, you know, like well known, other rock stars want to hang out with you, but you never made the money that John Bon Jovi made.
That's so funny.
But everybody thinks you did.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's the problem. You don't. Yeah. They say you don't need the money.
Hysterical. That's hysterical. Well, listen. But talk a little bit about the international nature. I know you go to toy fairs in Nuremberg, right?
Yeah. Well, so the toy industry is a global industry. And actually, just this morning, I was talking to somebody, and I realized this is the longest span of my adult life where I haven't been on a plane going somewhere. Yeah. On average, I am somewhere twice a month. And, you know, my business has taken me to, you know, back and forth to China and Hong Kong so many times I can't even count, to the point where, you know, I have every new passport requires extra pages added, you know, throughout Asia, whether it be Singapore or Hong Kong or Thailand and Vietnam, and then into the Middle East, into Jordan and Israel, and then you know Europe, of course, you know Italy and England and Germany, and it's a globe-trotting industry. You know, if we have success here, we want to bring those items to Europe and see if we can crack that market. If the Europeans have an item that's doing well there, we want to see if we can get them to bring it over here.
Well, toys in Europe have such a special place. I mean, I grew up in Switzerland, and we had a store called Franz Karl Weber in downtown Zurich, which was 5 stories. You know, 5 stories of nothing but toys. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I noticed, like when we were at a toy fair, or rather Chicago Toy and Game Fair, all the people from Holland. I don't know, what is it with Holland? They seem like a big toy place.
Well, there's quite, well, we work with and have had some successful items with a company called Goliath, which is based out of Holland. They own Pressman Toys, which, if you're, you know, a toy aficionado, they were one of the largest toy companies in the world at some point. Goliath, I mean, that guy literally ran around Europe selling a game called Rummy Cube out of the trunk of his car, 30, 40 years ago. And then now has grown his company to be, a couple of 100 million. And I'm happy to say that we have a game with them called Color Smash that was listed as one of Walmart's top sellers. So
Wow.
the Goliath has been very good to us. So
Now, was there ever a guy actually named Rubik? American invention.
Yeah, well, Rubik's Cube, that's a whole nother hole to go down. We'll have that conversation another time. But yeah, that's an item I wish I came up with.
Wow.
Exactly.
Which was actually, just quickly to know, was invented behind the Iron Curtain, and technically was property of the Soviets.
Really?
It's amazing.
Yes.
Wow, that's
I
amazing.
figured it was some guy named Rubik,
Whoa.
So
Hey.
Matt, if someone's watching today and and they could go to, two events. I mean, I suppose they'd be Toy Fair and Chicago Toy and Game Show, right? And maybe
Well, first and foremost, Chicago Toy and Game Fair, because that is inventor specific. That's the place you go if you want to be a toy inventor. You're going to get educated. You're going to meet people you're going to meet me, my peers, and you're going to have a good time. And it's going to be a few days long, and you'll get the education that you want.
that's usually in November,
Yeah, beautiful, sunny, warm Chicago in November.
out on the pier, the last building on the pier.
Yeah.
In Canada.
I got to admit, though, I look forward to it every single year. I've gone 12 years running now. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And I know you're a regular speaker there because I saw you speak once or twice there.
Yes. As you know, it's I always have to prep myself to not curse. Don't curse.
Like me, he
Children's
doesn't curse a lot, but he does it for emphasis,
Yes.
Very important.
I'm from New York. That's how we talk.
Somebody asked me once, how do you get your kids' attentions? I said, you use the F word. But to me, because one thing, Matt, it seems to me, obviously I know a little more about the hardware and housewares business, but in any industry, if you want to exploit it, you really need to get acclimated to it, which means going to events. It means meeting people, maybe reading trade magazines. I mean, just getting up to speed, right? I mean, isn't that the hardest thing to do?
Yeah, I mean, you really, the more into the business that you are, the more likely you're going to be successful, right? Like, you're not going to be a rock star if you only play every 2 months at the local pub for your friends, right? You can have fun and then you can dabble, but you have to know, you have to learn, you have to meet the players, and good, bad, or indifferent, connections mean a lot. It's not that it's an unfair playing field. It's just not built for the inventor. Everyone thinks that inventors we should have access to this and that. Well, the guys on top that are selling to Walmart and to Target and to whatever, the Amazons, and they're paying for the marketing dollars. Again, it's a fashion business. You're here today, gone tomorrow. You're one of many. You're just a number. And there'll be more of you. And then, as sad and scary as that sounds, it's the reality. So,
let's just talk about that for a second, because, and I don't mean, look, it happens, but the odds are long. I mean, I don't mean to scare people, meaning the odds are long. I mean, you gotta put in effort, and work, right? You can't just mail it in, right?
Yeah. Well, first off, one thing that drives me, that is a common problem I see with inventors who want to get into toys, is they come to you with an idea but not a solution. We've talked about this before in other podcasts, but it's very common, which, like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if this did that? Well, how's it do that? I don't know.
But it's my idea.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I usually say, if that could do this, and I turn it around.
Yeah. And again, when you're dealing in a fashion business, how it works obviously is very important, but how it looks is important too. So you need to put the time in, and you have to make sure that you solve problems. And another thing is, you've got a lot of novice inventors who really think that, like, this is gonna work. So I'll go to ShyTag, and I'll see these guys who paid to go there, and they're doing their rounds, and they're meeting with 30, 40 companies, but I think they spent more money on their hotel room than they did on developing their product.
Yeah, good point.
And I get their passion, and I get that they see that they want other people to see their vision, but they're not going to see their vision unless it's properly executed. And then at the same time, I'll be sitting there and I'll be talking to somebody who's a successful inventor, and we'll be talking, and I'll be like, well, how much did you invest to get blah 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 product developed? And it's sometimes these numbers are astronomical. Like that's why there's companies that focus on developing products, because they need to generate a lot of the money that they make from their royalties on successful items gets turned right back around in developing the next product.
Right. And I find that too in my business. I run open innovation programs in other industries, and I get a lot of submissions. It's very easy for me early on. Half the leads I get are just sort of ideas, and maybe they have a fancy sales sheet, but it's kind of just thrown against the wall, and they really haven't been developed. I think that's what you're saying, and thought through at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few people out there, and I'm sure Warren, you could wave your flag, because I know you've got people that you love and that you hate within the inventing industry, but who just preach a good sell sheet's going to get you where you need to go. Maybe in 1987 that worked.
Yeah. It's getting harder.
It's a lot harder, because even if you get them excited on a great sell sheet, the next thing they want to do is bring it into their boardroom and discuss it with a flock of millennials who need instant gratification.
Yeah, it's a long road, man.
Yeah, everybody's got an opinion, but and that's why people either need to put in the time or effort themselves, or hire someone like Matt, or team up somehow, to advance it. So I think that's a really important thing. And like I keep saying, I'm writing my book, and it's a big chunk of it. The idea that this is easy, it's just not. But, Carmen, I'm sure there's
advantages to working with brokers that you just won't get on your own. If you can't get on the inside, but you feel like, I'm gonna meet this person, that person, and you might meet these people, you might get so far, but the large soy companies, they have a pool of no more than 12 development companies that they work with on a constant level, that they have up to their offices, that they give them briefs, that they give them wish lists, and they tell them what they're looking for.
Wow.
Now, that information is priceless, because what are the big inventing companies doing? They're working off wish lists, because those wish lists dictate what these companies are looking for within their planogram. If you don't know what a planogram is, that's the store shelves. That's what goes on the shelves. Now, if a company is looking to fill something in their planogram, they're going to tell you, we need a product. Let's just say it's a doll. We need a doll that's going to be $19.99 with a feature, because our current $9.99 feature doll isn't selling, and if we don't replace that, we're going to lose that to a competitor.
It has to have a tiger and a gun with it, right?
Right, a tiger and a gun, right. If you're watching this years from now, remember that during the coronavirus, there was a hit show on Netflix. But
It's so true. Planograms sometimes get done 6 months in advance, a year in advance, right? So it's all how you fit in there.
So you're planogram filling. So the big companies, the big inventing companies, they're spending all that money. Remember, I said they're putting lots of money in? They're competing because they know that's a guarantee that someone's getting that planogram spot. So now it's no longer one inventor versus thousands. It's one inventor group versus 11 others.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's hard. And it can be done, but it just takes a lot of effort. So hey, Carmen, I know that questions I'm sure are coming in from our audience, and so do you want to?
Yeah. We got a couple. And one question I had, I didn't send over, is that you travel around the world, obviously, Matt, different games and products and toys. What is it that you see in different parts of the world that kids like to play with that's different from here in the U.S., or is there any difference?
Well, there's always cultural differences, right? I mean, Europe to the U.S., not as much, because, we're pretty European based in a lot of respects, right? But the Europeans take their games a lot more serious than we did traditionally. In Germany, they have like what would be the equivalent of an Academy Award for games, and they have Essen every year, which is this massive show for games.
Wow.
You know, it's very game centric, and it's strategy games, and it's light strategy games, and they're complicated. You know, like, and some of those games have come to the U.S. and had some success. Settlers of Catan is definitely a great example of that. And that sort of dictates, you know, what the Europeans like. And in companies like Goliath, which you're talking about, Holland, like, you know, they're big European companies that have strong games, and as the games have become more and more popular in the U.S., you're seeing them. That's, you know, the European ones are starting to come here, so we're starting to get some of that. Years ago, I would have argued that, you know, in Asia, you get a huge collectible toy business, which we didn't have here. In fact, if, you know, maybe I'm showing my age, but let's say like in the early 80s, when you heard that in Japan, adults read comic books and collected action figures, you're like, Japanese are strange. But now you can probably walk into just about any 40-year-old guy's house and find somewhere an action figure of something that they bought, whether it's their favorite sports star or rock star, or just a, you know, some, you know, it's a Thundercat, who knows, you know, but they've got something, you know. So the world is sort of merging in that respect.
It's smaller.
Wow.
So
That's
it is
crazy.
good if you have access to trends in other parts of the world that you've seen that, you know, traditionally your culture or some culture somewhere else has loved this, and you have yet to really see it grow in the U.S. Don't ignore it. Pay attention. Maybe it's on a steady climb, and you could be the first in that wave.
Huh. Is there, one of the questions was, is there a most asked for type toy that you know of right now?
Games and puzzles. I mean, that was already trending tremendously. As I was saying, Americans are starting to get more and more into that. They just weren't. And millennials particularly love puzzles, which I don't quite get, but they do. But that segment is just increasing at a rapid rate.
Huh.
Well, don't you see too, you know,
also during the coronavirus, some companies are reporting as much as 500% increase in sales in those categories.
Well, my wife's mom, you know, who lives in a cottage with us, she's got her puzzle out, you know, and she's been working for weeks on it. I mean, people are so Matt, to that degree, you know, I've been giving a lot of thought to that.
It's not just grandmothers and nanas; it's 17-year-old kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's so clearly things or some things are going to change coming out of the virus. I mean, for one, people are getting used to working at home now. Wait till companies realize that they don't have to have them all come into one office building and people can work effectively out of their houses. I see that being a big change down the road. People may be not getting out as much anymore. I mean, do you think this helps the toy business? And what do you think? Do you think there's any trends that are going to come out of this?
I think so I think this was going to crack the code of those people that were not too cool or too old to play with toys, who wouldn't have touched a game or a puzzle a year ago or 6 months ago, who have now been trapped inside and have now become acclimated. You're like, you know what? I had fun doing that puzzle, or it was really good actually sitting with my family and playing this board game. You know, so I think you've now converted all these people into this sort of stuff, because, you know, things change, man. Like, you know, again, like 30 years ago, you would make fun of D&D, right? Dungeons and Dragons, like those were geeks. Now all those people that were beating up those geeks play fantasy football.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a tonight. Hey, Carmine, there must be more questions. I know we're at about 10 minutes left, but
Yeah. So a couple questions was we got one from Julie, who runs Innovation World, which is a kids invention group. It's pretty big around the world, and she asked, like, kind of, is there a different way with electronics and toys and phones and all, a different way to define a toy these days, or is it still like, hey, whatever you play with is a toy?
Okay, there's a lot of answers to that. I'm going to go with based on how I would perceive it from my business. I define a toy as what section of the store it's sold in.
who's the buyer?
That's a good idea.
Buyer. Exactly. Who is the buyer? Because it might fall into activities. It can fall into gifts. It can fall into electronics. You know, those are much harder categories, or they're just going to put it out for seasonal or for a little promotional. You know, I want to focus on the actual toy aisle.
Wow.
That's interesting. And you know what? That for people that goes in other industries too. That's a really good thing to point out. For instance, in the housewares business, big difference between electrics, things that have a plug and things that don't. Different buying, different margins, different way to market. So somebody comes up with an electrics invention, it's a whole different path than coming up with a gadget. So I just think that's kind of interesting, and I'm sure other industries it's the same.
Wow. And then one other question. I mean, I've answered a few of the questions as people went through, and I don't really see this too much, but one of the viewers is asking if you see any sourcing shifting in or out of China with not only things that are happening there, but globally or politically, but also with the virus.
Okay, this is a good question, because we have scrambled big time looking for additional sources in the last year, and it's still an insane challenge. So China's built to manufacture things, and I want to point out, toys is one of the first things that they were making before making anything else. Okay, as far back as we can recall, toys have been made in Japan, made in Macau, made in China, made in Hong Kong. You know, it's just something they've always been building. And the U.S. is now, as multi-generations have become accustomed to what that pricing looks like, to tell them that there's a 20%, 30%, or 50% increase in something that they were paying $1.99 for 20 years is difficult. When it comes to building toys in the U.S., we can do some games, and sometimes it's competitive, rarely ever less, but competitive. But we have a hard time doing molded items. We can't. Deco is a big problem. You know, if we need to get action figures painted, who's doing that? You know, how are they doing that affordably?
Yep.
And on top of that, it's the logistics of it. We can find some guy that can mold something, but he can't get the packages printed, and he can't get the blisters made that need to go in it. The U.S. just sort of, it lost that. So, you know, in the 1940s, 50s, and even the 60s and 70s, you had regions of the country that were built as a supply chain. I mean, yeah. Brooklyn, you go to Brooklyn, the molding guy was across the street from the printing guy. So it was easy, you know, but those guys aren't next to each other anymore. These guys are in random industrial parks, 30, 40 miles away from each other at best. And I don't know if that will come back to the U.S. I think more likely than anything else in the future, there'll be some sort of just on-demand production of stuff, but I don't think that's the near future. That's the distant future. You know, we do some stuff out of Vietnam. Oddly enough, we've, like I mentioned before, you know, been to, you know, the Middle East and dealt with Jordan. And that was just weird subsidized programs through the U.S. to just neutralize the area. Like they'll give them money to not blow each other up if they'll do cut and sew.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that G.I. Joe's being made in Vietnam now.
But G.I. Joe didn't fight the Vietnamese. They fought Cobra, which was an international terrorist organization.
Wow.
So there you go. More than ever, actually.
Cobra. Wow, that's hey, you know what's interesting, though, Matt, because you made me think of something out of the blue. You know, the Toy Fair was the last major show that everybody went to, right?
Yeah, literally within a few weeks. Yeah, it was all done. Before Toy Fair, though, I was in Germany in the Nuremberg Toy Show, which is the world's largest toy show and one of the oldest. Quick back note that you know, before toys were made in China or before they were made in the U.S., they were made in Nuremberg, Germany. It was a great museum.
A bad ring to it, Nuremberg. You know.
Yeah, well, you know, so many jokes, but I don't know who I'm going to offend, so I will stay off.
Got a good rating facility there.
Yes. You just don't want to, you know. Just don't want to say you were just following orders. Let's just put it that way, right?
But coming out of the show, you must have made a lot of leads, and I mean, is that still carrying your business, or have things quieted down since then?
Well, where I've been greatly affected is you know, we started dealing heavily with the coronavirus when it hit China in January. So then we had entered Chinese New Year, so we went through this big panic, like, okay, we'll get out of Chinese New Year, and then we'll just have to pick up where we left off, and we're going to lose like a month or two, only to come out that other side, and the U.S. is getting hit by it. So there's an issue of production, there's an issue of delivery, and there's a little bit of fear that, there's just not going to be as many toys at retail this year because the supply chain is going to be difficult to fill. And let's face it, I'll be shocked if shipping isn't through the roof because it's going to be piracy. These guys know that, this is their chance to make a serious killing because once all this opens up, the ports are going to be full.
Yeah.
And they're going to be able to dictate their pricing.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about it. I agree.
Wow.
All right, cool. I'm going to, what do you guys think? Start wrapping it up?
Sure.
Look, I want to say I'm really appreciative of Matt coming on our UIA board. We're a nonprofit. We're all people that want to give back to the community. We don't have huge resources, but Matt does a lot of our social media and our posts and all that. So thank you, Matt, for your extra efforts in doing that. And Carmine's on our board.
It's a good cause, and people should, again, it's free. So join the UIA. You've got nothing to lose.
It's a free concert. Remember Woodstock when they ran a free concert?
Yeah.
I remember that. But
All right, well, very good.
Don't touch the brown acid. Yes.
All right, guys, as you can see, we have a lot of fun on these workshops. Warren, real quick, next week's workshop, what do we got coming up?
Same bat time, same bat station, 2:00 Eastern every Thursday. We're just finished second of 10 weeks. Next week is Dara Trujillo and Kedma O, two board members. Dara used to work for Disney and then for many years for Home Shopping Network. She ran their American Dreams program and now works with Sandy Cleary and SLC Holdings, which is an angel financer for small businesses. And so they're really cool. Kedma wrote a book called Target Funding, and it's a book about where to find money. And they also have a lot of expertise for women and folks that, maybe can get a special access to places that other people might not be aware of. So it'll be a great show next week, really full of knowledge. And then in 2 weeks, we've got what would have been the hardware show. And we're going to do a pitch panel. So if you have a hardware product and want to pitch it, reach out to us and we'll get you set up and we'll do a pitch. Some people will pitch and then everybody get to watch it and it'll be educational. We'll criticize the pitch. Well, not criticize. I don't mean criticize being mean, but just be critical of things you can do better. So those are our next 2 weeks, but this series is going to continue every Thursday at 2:00 through June. So
awesome.
And
cool.
Let me add one more thing.
Yeah.
I ordered a green screen and it was promised by Amazon to be yesterday, but guess what? It didn't show up. So I still got well, you probably think that's a special green screen, but that's next time I'm going to look like you. And then I think you sent me a fake microphone. And so we're going to be ready for you.
Yeah. Just don't shave your head and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Carmine, you got to let them know about the hole he's falling down next to you. Well, you don't have the right lighting.
It's the lighting. Now you're talking. That's it.
Anyway, but listen, Matt, again, it's Matt at designedge.net, Matt Nuccio. If you don't know him, Google him, look him up. And Matt's terrific and does a lot more than toys. But if you do have something in the toy area, he's just a great resource for everybody. So thank you, Matt.
Yeah. No doubt. Very good. Thank you so much, Matt. Warren, thank you as usual. I appreciate all you listeners out there, everybody watching. Please, as we mentioned, subscribe not only to this channel, but go out to UIAUSA.org and subscribe to the UIA. It's free. You get a lot of information, a lot of technical knowledge. I mean, the people on the board, the people that are within the UIA is pretty much anyone that you need help will be there to help you. We will catch you next Thursday. As Warren said, same bat time, same bat channel. You all take care, and we'll see you soon.